their domestic good being subsidized. Okay, so what we do, we can make a report to the WTO, and WTO will investigate, right? Then they will find that if they are guilty, then they will fine them. Okay, not so basically this is WTO. All right. Now, why did what do we call it? Why did the so every time they will have every year or 2 years or 3 years they will have rounds and rounds of discussion. All right. So this round of discussions, let me check first. Okay. So you can see these are the different rounds. So these are called GATT. So last time I said before WTO there was this GATT, General Agreement to Trade and Tariff. So this one generally the goals are different. The goals are the same. They just want to have reduced tariff. But this is General Agreement to Trade and Tariff. So you understand the, what do you call it? If you look at the words, General Agreement to Trade and Tariff. So what happened here is, here is an organization, okay, led by the US, and he get all the people who come, all the countries who wants to join the GATT, and then they have discussion. In the discussion, they try to get a general agreement. So what do you mean by general agreement? That means in general, it's like that lah. Okay, so if you want to protect your industry, this and that, you may have maybe some exceptions, right? Or maybe some special consideration, and then this and that, yada, yada, yada. So it is not a very firm thing. Okay, and in this general agreement, people will talk and talk and talk. So last time when the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mahathir, last time, he doesn't want to attend the GATT meeting, right? Because this general agreement is general agreement to talk and talk. So basically, these people all they cannot come to any agreement. Okay. So what happened was in the year in what year? In the year, I think around 2001, then we have the, I think it's the Uruguay round, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 1986, somewhere around here, we have the WTO. So the WTO form, and one part of the WTO is the former GATT. So WTO is a bigger organization. Now this WTO, it's no longer a general agreement. Okay, so what happened? WTO is basically, they are a lot more tough. Tough meaning that, these are the things we are going to do. We are going to liberate, we are going to take off the, what do you call it, the tariff, and we're going to do it stage 1, everybody must agree. Stage 2, everybody must agree. So they just go on and on and on. Okay, so continue to push for this. Okay, so why 1990s? Okay, so you have before 1990s and after 1990s. Okay, so before 1990s, the world is still under this thing called the Cold War. All right, so what is the Cold War? Anyone can tell me? Cold War, India? What is Cold War? Not the one between you and your boyfriend. This Cold War is the world one. Yes, come on. No. Oscar? What is Cold War, Oscar? World War II. Okay. Now World War II, US versus Russia. Okay. Now World War II, very good. World War II, it's a hot war. That means World War II, they fight with guns, with bombs, with people dying and all those things. Now, after World War II, so World War II is between the Allied forces and the axis of power, right? So Allied is US, Russia, USSR, USSR, UK, France, these are the countries in the allied forces. Then the axis of power, the axis of power is Germany, Japan, and Italy. Okay, so that was World War II. That was hot war. Okay, why they want to fight? Because Germany felt that their race are superior. They are what do you call it? Destined to rule the world. So they fight World War II. Okay, Japanese felt that they are the one who destined to rule entire Asia, right? So the whole Asia was taken over by given to Japan to fight the war. Okay, now after the Second World War, 1945 to 1990, it's a period of Cold War. Now this Cold War fought on something called what do we call it? Cold War is something that we fought on ideology. Okay, so it's between communism and capitalism. Okay, now how do they fight Cold War? Yes, who want to try? How do they fight Cold War? Let me look at the list. We got 20 students. Akram. Any idea? Tariff. Okay. In the economic fronts, they do fight. So they try to compete with one another, okay, in terms of trade and stuff like that, but not so aggressive on the economic fronts. There are other ways they fight. Okay, Cherry, Miss Cherry Fu. How do they fight? See which country can produce more strawberry and cherries. No, funny, I'm making all the jokes. I'm laughing myself. Okay, better not. Now, no, Jaden Tan. No, Cold War. How do they fight? Okay. Number one, you know about this or not? Space race. Okay, who got to the space first? Tell me. Yes, Evelyn Lau. Evelyn, who got to the space first? Ayo, Russia lah. Hello. The first man on space is Yuri Gagarin. The Americans got to the moon first, right? Neil Armstrong got to the moon first. Okay, so there's a space race. So we want to see whose technology is better. Okay, we want to see who is smarter, who is, because this technology will leads to know who got better weapons. So the second one, of course, is the nuclear arm race. See who got more nuclear weapon. Okay, at the height, if I'm not mistaken, combined what do you call it? Combined warheads. Russian have about 11,000 warheads. Okay, the Americans has about 7,000 warheads. Okay, then other countries. So you combine that, there's over 25,000 warheads. Okay, of nuclear weapons. So this nuclear weapon can actually destroy the whole world. I think hundreds of times. Because you know how powerful is one nuclear bomb. Okay, the one that you see in Hiroshima, the one that you see in Nagasaki in Japan, that one it's considered a very small nuclear bomb. Okay, that one is just atomic bomb, right? So later they have hydrogen bomb, later they have I don't know what other bombs, and they just getting more and more crazy. So these two countries, okay, it's between the West, basically the US, and the communism, it's the USSR, United Soviet Social. So this is the Cold War, 1945 to 1990. Okay, so after the nuclear arm race, the space war, then they have proxy war. Now, proxy war is the war they use another country to fight. So the famous proxy war would be Afghanistan. Okay, the other one is Vietnam. Okay, so basically the Americans will help one side, and then the USSR will help the other side, and then this country they will fight. It's like now Ukraine like that. Okay, it's a proxy war. It's basically a war between Russia and US and NATO. Okay, so basically they have a lot of proxy war, and then they have a lot of spy. Okay, I don't know you know this or not. Okay, once upon a time, very famous movie, James Bond 007, right? So there were a lot of spy activities, spy, counter spy, blah blah blah, all those things. Okay, so basically this is what happened. Now during this period, we have the GATT, GATT. So the Americans find that, we need to get more countries together with us to have more trade so that the economy will grow. So when the economy grow, they are better, they're happy with the capitalist system, they don't go to the communism. Now, what if they don't like us? They don't like us also, never mind, we tolerate them, they are friend to unite USSR, also we tolerate them. So they are actually very good people, the Americans that time. Okay, so basically that is what happened during the Cold War. Okay, but then in the 1990s, USSR broke up or disintegrate. Okay, so there are many reasons why they disintegrate. One of them is actually the lack of economic growth. Okay, after 40 years, 40 over years, the economy are very bad. People don't have enough food to eat. Okay, and although they are very good, they are still very good in terms of their sports, in terms of their what do you call it, in terms of their technology and all those things, space race, although what do you call it, the Soviets are still very good, the Russians are still very good. Okay, but the economy is just very, very bad. Why the economies are so bad? Because there is a lack of competition, right? There is a lack of motivation for the workers to work and to move to innovate, right? Because it is a planned central planning system, unlike the capitalism. So the capitalism during that time was a lot stronger, okay, in terms of economic growth. So overall, the countries, they improve, yada yada, they get richer and stuff like that. Any questions so far? Okay, then after they break up, this is the end. USSR disintegrate, 1990. Now this is the end of the Cold War. Now no more Cold War already. Okay, now the world enter into a new thing called the unipolar world. There's only one superpower. Okay, so now the Americans say we can do whatever hell we like. Okay, we don't have to be a nice guy, we don't have to please anybody. Okay, so that is the time when they also form the WTO, right? So they're telling you that we are not going to wait for you to open up your economy or whatnot. Okay, you either join us or you don't join us. You don't join us, then everywhere you export, you will face tariff barrier. Right? You join us, you cannot have tariffs, so you can sell to any country, but you also must allow other countries to sell to you without tariff. So that is the WTO. Okay. Now, so in all this round, WTO in the Doha round. So yesterday the presentation, they say what? Then the Doha round, they say one of the things that basically the South countries are not happy is intellectual property rights. Okay, so these are too strict, right? Too strict meaning that if you have a property rights on computer programs and stuff like that, okay, now the poor countries, if they want to develop, they need to learn or to use all this technology, all this software. But if you have a what do you call it, a very strict intellectual property right, you say you can use, but you have to pay me a lot of money, then these countries will never ever be able to catch up. Right, so whatever intellectual property in terms of medicine, technology, or whatnot, okay, so if the poor countries want to develop, they must have access to this technology, and you cannot force them to pay too much lah. Okay, so this WTO, they want to enforce this thing. Now the other things more important will be what do you call it, agriculture subsidies. These are the subsidies by the developed countries. Okay, the developed countries give a lot of agriculture subsidies to their farmers. Okay, countries like UK, okay, they give to the farmers. So they are protecting their farmers in UK, right? In France, in Italy, everywhere. They are protecting their farmers so that, they don't have to import from the poor country. So the poor country is like, hey, if I don't import this, what else can I import? Okay, so this is the big problem, right? So what happened is basically the countries of the south or the poor countries, they just walk out. They say, forget it. We are not going to do this anymore. Okay, whatever is done, we just continue with what we have agreed. But the rest, we are not going to further liberalize or open our economy. Right. So that's why in the what do we call it? GATT, after that, the WTO round, this thing stopped already. All right, so this thing stopped really after I don't know what year, 2000 something. Okay, now no more, meaning we cannot get any more agreement. Okay, finally the poor country stood up and said enough is enough lah. Right, this is stupid. Okay, so this is WTO. Okay, now then we go to World Bank. So yesterday we talked about this already. So Michael Perkins, if you want, you can read this book, Confession of an Economic Hitman. All right, it reads like a novel, very interesting. Okay, but you can't believe it. But it was so it's all real, it's all true, right? And it was so, how to say, it's also very sad, right? You can see how evil the CIA is, right? Totally evil. So how they control the countries, how they kill the leaders and all those things, right? So this is the African countries, they particularly, right? So that's why now with the BRI, okay, China's going into Africa, and now Africa actually welcome China a lot, right? The population, the government, all those, because they find that this China, when they come in, they build infrastructure and all those things. They don't want to control your domestic politics. They don't care about what you do. They just say, I just want peace and I want to help you and I want you to become rich. I'm not here to rob you. Okay, unlike what the World Bank do, they work with the economic hitman. They work with all these large contractors company, right? Corporate in US, they come here to rob the poor countries, to take their oil basically. Okay, but China, they don't do all of them. They give you loan, they help you this, right? They buy things from you so that you can sell all your stuff to the China economy. After you have the infrastructure, then you become rich. And China want you to become rich because they want you to be able to buy from them, right? So from trade, you have what we call mutual prosperity. Okay, now, all right. So this is the concept. So that's why China's influence, right, in terms of the South America, not so much, but Africa a lot. Okay, Africa, the Middle East, the Arabs country, all those, they are getting very, very strong. So the more friends that China have, the stronger the influence of China will have. So in the end, if let's say US said, I want to sanction China, sanction this, China will say, okay, thank you very much. The more you sanction, the better, because after you sanction, I just trade with all this. I can still trade with all this, and I don't need you anymore. Basically, they don't need them. It's just like Russia, right? So Russia, when they sanction Russia are forced to use cannot use the dollar. They forced to do other things, but eventually the economy becomes stronger and more independent, and they don't rely on what do we call it, on US, and they don't need to borrow from them, all this World Bank and all these things. So they have a much faster economic growth, right? They become more stronger. They develop their own independent technology, their independent patent and innovation and all those things. Okay, now, so far, any questions? Okay, so this is the thing, but this one happens in the 1990s and 1980s a lot. Okay, so US is always like that. They are always wanting to go into the country. The CIA, they want to change the government. They want the regime change. They want to put in their puppet, and then they will continue exploiting the country. Right? I don't care whether you live or die, but so long as whatever wealth you have, I will continue to take. Right? So if your countries have no oil, you have no resources, have no what do you call it, expensive those minerals, that is the best thing, because by that The rich country, US, the CIA, they will just leave you alone. They are not interested, right? And if you find that these countries without resources, they actually, in the long run, they grow a lot more. The politics are more stable because the what do you call it? The Americans don't come and disturb you. Okay, so basically this is what happened. All right. Now, IMF. So yesterday we talked about this. Why is IMF and what is IMF and what are the functions? The curse is worse than the cure. So IMF convention. Okay. Now this IMF got one thing very interesting one. Okay, it is called the Washington Consensus. Okay. Now, so what is this Washington Consensus? These are real thing. I'm not talking about conspiracy theory. You can go and Google and check it out, or go to TikTok and what is this Washington Consensus? Okay. Now, Washington Consensus actually start from he said the 19th century. Right. So this is the century of the British. 1T or 2T? 2T. No. Looks like 1T. Okay, anyway. Oh shit. Okay, so you can see the British Empire are so huge and so powerful, right? They conquered almost 2/3 of the world, including countries like Malaysia. Okay, so the whole century was a British century because they has a super, what do you call it, huge naval power. All right, so their ships can go to anywhere in the world. You just give them about 3 months or 2 months, they will reach there and they will whack whatever. They will just kill off anyone who oppose them. Okay, and you cannot fight with them because they are very, very powerful. So that was the thing. Okay, so what happened? The Washington Consensus said, okay, the 20th century, okay, and the 21st century must be an American century. Okay, so if you Google this thing, American Century is actually a real organization. Among the people in American Century is, this is the project lah. American Century is Vice President Dick Cheney. Don't play. So this is a real one. I mean, a lot of very, very powerful and rich people. So they said the 20th century and the 21st centuries belong to the Americans. So we are here to play the biggest bully in the world. Right? So how do you do that? Okay, how do you control, right, other countries, all the economies and all those things? Okay, so they come up with these things called the what do you call it? The neoclassical economics. Okay, so neoclassical economics says that you must have free market and all those things. So every time when the economy is in a financial crisis and stuff like that, they will force these conditions or reform in the economy. Right? So how do they force? They say that you are in crisis, right? So you need a loan. The IMF will give you the loan, but this loan will be given with conditions, right? So conditions number one is you must raise your interest rate, right? So this is one of the toughest things. Very difficult. They say we don't want your currency continue to depreciate. We don't want all this stupid investment. We want the real investment. So we need to raise your interest rate so that when your investment, only when your project, let's say the interest rate is 5%, only your project can make a profit of 7-8%, then only you invest. You don't invest in stupid projects. So that is their argument. Okay, raise interest rate. But raising interest rate when the economy is in recession will actually push a lot more people into unemployment. Okay, say you have a house, okay, every month you are paying about $2,000. Once they raise interest rate, you end up, suddenly you have to pay $3,000-4,000 every month, right? Because the interest rate is higher and you borrow based on the floating interest rate, you are in trouble. So business also get in trouble because people don't want to buy things anymore. Everybody just put their money in the bank. Okay, and then people don't want to spend. So your restaurant, so basically a lot more there will be a lot more economic recession a lot more pain, right? So basically, this is what they believe. Pain is good, right? Things need to get worse before it gets better. Understand? All right. So raise interest rate. All right. So number two, cut subsidies, cut government spending as much as you can. Okay. Cut government jobs. All those cut, all this. No need to spend one cut. Whatever subsidies, cut. Right. Medical spending cuts. Whatever they can cut, they cut lah. Okay. So and raise taxes. All right. So again, this is another blow to the economy. It comes, right. So we want the economy to be the fiscal position. That means the government must be able to collect enough taxes and don't simply go and spend, right? Because they find that you guys get into trouble is because you're being very, very irresponsible. Okay. Then of course there will be market reform. So this reform includes maybe what we call trade liberalization. Right? That means no more tariff. Anyone who want to import, they must import. No more protection. So the reason here is we want to increase competition. You have to compete with other firms in the rest of the world for you to be strong. So imagine if you are weak and you open up, things just become worse. Okay. And finally, of course, you also have liberalization, right, in various sectors in the economy, right? All the sectors are, let's say, electricity, water, and also all these can be what do we call it? Can be owned by foreigners 100%. Okay, so foreign ownership can be 100%. So basically, these are liberalization. So they want people to come in, and all these foreign companies, when they come in, they buy over your most valuable companies, like your water company, your electricity company, your telecommunication company, right? All these things. Okay, so of course, privatization. Whatever things you can privatize, you privatize. So these are some of these are the main what do we call it? Reform conditions that is given by IMF, right? So these are the conditions. So you must give the what do you call it? You must do this, right? So you have no choice, right? You need to borrow money, right? You need to get a loan because your economy is in trouble. So when you do this, they say it comes with a condition attached. So after this, your economy will become much worse, right? So hopefully that in the near future, maybe 1 year, 2 years later, things will recover and things become better. Okay, but whatever it is, whether it becomes better, it don't become better. All right. Now the economy will be who will benefit a lot from this what do we call it? From this economic crisis and loan. It is basically the West lah, or the what do you call it? The American corporate lah. Okay. Okay. So far, I spent a lot of time on IMF and World Bank and all these things. Right. So these are the two, actually three. IMF, World Bank, and what's the third one? IMF. WTO. Okay. So these three are the multilateral institutions. Okay. So you need to know lah. Okay. Now, what is BRICS, and briefly explain the development of BRICS in the past years? How does it conflict? This one we did also, right? All right. This one we did also. Have we? Yes. Okay. Explain the dollarization. Whose group is this? Hey, come on. Siapa punya? Whose group? The dollarization. Kenji, is it? Forgot already. Okay, Cherry, you want to explain the dollarization? I hope you didn't throw away your notes yesterday,
It's when like countries reduce reliance on US dollar.
Okay, why?
Because US dollar is used as like that the standard currency when people do international trade.
Okay.
Then like there are problems that come with it lah because it becomes US becomes too powerful with it.
Mm,
And then yeah, so like uh US like they use it as a threat, like the US dollar, so they can like
uh-huh.
freeze reserves for other countries to like threaten them. And
Okay.
then also like we are technically like other countries are technically paying back for their inflation because when they print
Mm,
money, then other like yeah, so like the currency never depreciates. Yeah.
mm. Okay. Okay, very good. So you'll get the idea now, right? The first thing is about we look at the US dollar, right? Now this US dollar is actually what do we call it? It's the main source of American power, right? Why do I say it's the main source of American power? Because this is the world reserve currency. So every country, when they have a reserve, they will put into a US dollar. And they are also the major trading currency. So major trading currency, that means all major commodities, things like oil, food, a lot of things are most of the exports, right? So either it is 100% trade in US dollar or majority of them trade in US dollar. Even if you don't 100% trade in US. So what happens if you want to buy something from other countries or you want to sell something from other countries? People will say you have to pay me in US dollar. Can see that? Okay, like now we face a little bit of problem here because the US and also the what they call it the NATO the Europe countries, they sanction Russia. They say we don't buy oil from Russia. Okay, fine. Russia say we don't buy oil from Russia. Okay, and then he said Russia cannot use the SWIFT. Right, so the SWIFT system is actually whenever you want to buy and sell, okay, or trade, you have to use the SWIFT system because this is where you get your money. You this is how you pay your customer or how you get paid. Okay, if you don't use the SWIFT system, it's very, very difficult. So what the US did was they cut Russia out of the SWIFT system. They said now you cannot use the SWIFT system, right? And and basically what Russia tried to do is they sell their oil. Okay, they say whoever want to sell the oil, okay, whoever want to buy oil can buy from me. So who buy from them? India buy from them, right? India will say, oh, I don't care, right? Whichever country, so long as you can buy, sell to me at a cheaper price, I will buy. But then India asked Russia, if you don't pay me in US dollar, what are you gonna how do you want to get paid, right? So so Russia say, okay, you pay me Indian rupee lah, right? So now Russia has a lot of Indian rupee. Now what is the use of Indian rupee? Right? Indian rupee will be useful when Russia import things from India. Can see that? But the problem is there's not much thing that Russia want to buy from India. Right? So if they continue selling oil and continue getting more and more and more and more rupee, what is he going to do with rupee? Right? If you get more and more and more US dollar, you can buy literally from any other country. So that's why we need the US dollar. Right? So that's why I say US dollar is one of the major source of the American power. Very, very powerful one. Okay. So what happened is then they form the what do you call it? They form BRICS. So in BRICS, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna come up with there maybe another currency, right? So far, no currency want to be a world currency to replace the dollar because this is also quite heavy one, like China, the biggest economy so far. in BRICS, they also don't want to become the replacing the US dollar. So they will have to make a kind of what do you call it? A form of arrangement whereby they come up with a new currency or whatever things are. So this currency will be make up of all the different member countries and stuff like that to replace the dollar. Okay. Now, since it is now we're talking before the BRICS. So since everyone is using the US dollar, so demand for USD will always be there. So meaning that even if the US print money, okay, they print a lot of money, but people will still buy the US dollar because they need the US dollar to trade. All right. So when the US have a lot of current account deficit and they cannot pay, all they do is they borrow money. Okay. So they borrow money, people lend them money and they lend them in US dollar. All right. So when it comes to pay, what the US do, US will print money and pay them. Right? They don't exactly print money and pay them. So they print more money so that they have inflation. So when you have inflation, the real value of your debt, okay, the real value of US debt will go down. So this is how you pay your debt. So they keep printing and printing. And so basically they are like free lunch like that. Right? They just sit there, they don't have to do anything. They need money, they just borrow, and they cannot pay, they just print more money, and then they borrow again, they print more money, and they borrow again. Okay, so now they are saying that so this system is actually a very a lot of exploit. Okay, because other countries are like, imagine if you are China, you work so hard, you produce all these things, you sell to China, sell to US. Okay, and then in the end this US say I got no money to buy from you. Okay, never mind, we lend them money. After you lend them money, the money, the value of the money that you lend them get lesser and lesser and lesser. Okay, so basically this is exploit. But whatever it is, okay, it's like all these countries, all these poor countries, all the countries in the world, they don't mind lah. Not to say that they don't mind, they can't do anything, number one. Number two, they say it's also good because when we sell to US, we still have jobs lah. Okay, we still have something to do lah. Right, so it's like you are doing business in some way, and then someday, you get visited by a gangster. The gangster say, I give you security, I give you peace if you pay me $3,000 every month. You pay, right? So 3,000, you just pay. You see what I mean? So basically, this is what happened in the US economy. Okay. Then the Ukraine war happened. All right. So in the Ukraine war, what happened was the US now confiscate Russia, how to spell confiscate. Okay, Russia USD reserve, right? So what happened is Russia has a lot of money reserve, and they are all in USD. So what happened is US take this USD and don't give it to Russia and take it and then go and spend it, right? So this actually scared a lot of people. The rest of the world, we find that we cannot put our reserve in US dollar. Right? And we try to move away from US dollar and we try to not trade in US dollar. Okay, then trade in what? Trade in what also, never mind, right? But you have to trade in other things because we cannot depend on the US dollar. So we want to de-dollarize. Right? So this is the meaning of de-dollarization. Right? So once we I think it's not a matter of if, it's when. So generally, this movement to de-dollarize is very fast. Okay, and we are looking at maybe in another 3 years or 5 years, right? So the US dollar will become just another currency, and that time, US economy will be in huge trouble. Why? Because then the economy cannot borrow money. Okay, because all this while they don't produce, invest, they don't have a lot of what they call it, production, jobs and all those things. Whenever they want whenever the economy is bad, the government just spend money, and they print and they spend, and they print and they spend. Okay, now if they are no longer the world reserve currency, they cannot simply print. Right, if they do that, then the inflation will happen very bad for them. All right. So this is what do you call it? This move is one of the is generally considered one of the most stupid move, right? Because last time, you are there, okay. People will still want to continue lah, although we get exploited. But what to do? You are the biggest fella, and you get bullied everybody around, so it's okay. But now we find that, hey, you are more than bully. You basically want to confiscate the whole thing. So I don't know whether tomorrow is going to be my country. Okay, then it's going to be whose, right? So nobody would dare to want to put their reserve in US dollar anymore. So this de-dollarization. Okay, so who is doing de-dollarization? BRICS. Right? So BRICS is the major economic country in the world. In fact, the total GDP of BRICS, all those things you add together, it's bigger than the developed country, right? So the developed country got G7, okay? The less developed countries got G20. Okay? These are not to say poor countries, they are the richer among the poor countries. Okay, so this G7 are all the developed and all the rich people, all the rich countries. So they come together and they will form. They will talk about this and that, to see how they will control the world. But now the BRICS are coming out and say that we don't have to play by your rules. We can do our own things. Okay, we don't need you lah, basically. Okay, so if they don't need you, then basically in the economy, the G7 will be in trouble. Right? You find that the developed countries eventually they don't become poor, but then all these countries will become richer and more powerful, and eventually they will be more powerful even than G7. Right? They got higher income, better technology, more jobs, stronger economy, and maybe probably stronger in terms of military. Right? So today you see already military are very, very strong. Recently there was this Iranian drone attack, right? The first time they attacked Israel, right? So what did they do? They sent, I don't know how many drones, thousands, a few hundred drones into Israel. Now, this Iranian, right? They said, number one, we give you 3 days notice. Attack also give notice on. Number two, they said we give you not only we give you the notice when they fire the drone, when they send the drone itself to bomb all these places. They say I only bomb the military places. I don't want to kill any civilians. Number three, the drone that they send in is the slowest. That means once they fire the drone, 3-4 hours only it reach, or maybe 4-5 hours only it reach a target. Okay. Now, then the US, the what do you call it, the Israel and all this, they have the best what do you call it, air defense system. So when you want to send missile or drone, all those things, they can detect it very early and they shoot it down. Okay. But the problem is after they send the slowest drone, okay, just before it arrived, there's another more modern missiles that they send in, right? They call it hypersonic missile. So this one will go at the speed of I don't know, 5 times or 10 times of the speed of sound, hypersonic missile. So it's impossible to so far technology, it's impossible to defend against this, right? So it actually hit a lot of place that they want to hit. So what it means is if you combine the best technology that Israel and the US and all those things, they cannot protect against the drone from Iran. Okay, so now Saudi Arabia also got problem because Saudi was thinking that, last time we need the US to protect us, so that's why we befriend to US. Now they look at this thing and say, bloody foolish, US cannot even protect against the Iran drone. So what am I going to do? Right? So I better, move away from US. Can see the problem. Okay, so this is only we're talking about Iranian, right? So if you talk about Russia, the weapons is also more how to say, advanced. And the unknown factor is China. Okay, we don't know what is the China weapon is capable to do and what weapon do they have militarily. Okay, but eventually all these countries is going to surpass the what do you call it, the US and also all these Western countries. So now, like I said, we are moving into something called a multipolar world. All right, so this is pretty interesting lah. Okay, any questions? De-dollarization. No, okay, what about this? BRI. Whose group is this? Yes. BRI. Belt Road Initiative. Okay, Oscar, come. What is BRI? Hey, use the mic lah. Don't be shy lah. Come. Who else your group member?
It's a project that started at 2013 from China to link all Southeast Asia country area with like a road. So for a better infrastructure, how is it? For better trade opportunities, infrastructure development, economical benefits for the underdeveloped countries. I forgot everything.
Okay, okay. Now this is the Belt Road Initiative, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the Belt Road Initiative? Let's look at this. Wait. Yeah, I can do this or not. Wah, lama bank pula. Okay, so maybe this one. This one I can see better. Belt Road Initiative. What's the map? You cannot see the map. Okay, this map right? So basically, this is the thing. It's in Wikipedia. I should be able to see this map. Where's the map? My God, these are the countries in the membership in the Belt Road Initiative.
It did say like 150 countries.
My God, 150 countries. Okay, AIIB. Sorry. Okay, maybe this one is better. Okay, visit. So this one of the, what do we call it? One of the things that the Americans are really afraid, because they find that the China may want to have influence and control all these countries, and eventually they are going to turn towards what do you call it? Turn towards this country. These countries are going to support China, and America is gonna lose their influence on this. Right. So this is something that they cannot accept. Right. So these are the things that you can see. They want to build. This one is the road, the whole road here. All right. Okay. These are our economic corridor, maritime Silk Road. So this is the sea route. All right. So this is the road. So imagine how many ports they need to build, how many rail tracks they want to build, how many highways they want to build. All these are the infrastructure that they build. Okay, not so this is the Belt and Road Initiative, right? It's a huge project, so you can see they actually affect a lot. Okay, now here I think what do we call it? Thailand, they want to build a canal here. So instead of the ship going through here, they're going to go through here. All right. So this thing is going to be very long. I think, 2040 or 2030 over, then only they complete. I don't know what. Okay. Now, Malaysia already have one project here. It's called ECRL. Right. ECRL, I think it's going to complete next 2 years. So what happened is the ship can actually stop here and then unload. They can use the train and pass all the way to Malaysia, right? And then here you take the ship. So this will probably also cut the, what do you call it, the road. But basically what it means is we don't, this is Straits of Malacca, right? So these are all part of the Belt Road Initiative. So they increase a lot of alternatives. You can go through Thailand, you can go through Malaysia, and you can go through Singapore, Port Klang, and all those things. Right? But this is only in this part, right? So Colombo, Kenya, Athens, Italy, all these things are different what do you call it? Maritime Silk Road, Economic Belt Road, whatever. So there are going to be a lot more trade among the countries here. Okay, so this is what the Belt and Road Initiative is about. Okay, so why would they want to do this? Like what Oscar said just now, basically, why would they want to spend so much money and give so much subsidy and also give loan for this country to build their infrastructure? Because this infrastructure will create a lot of trade opportunities. Okay, all these countries, they can sell their product in China because China is rising. There's a lot of people got money there. Okay, so you sell to them, you become rich. Without the infrastructure, you cannot sell. It's too expensive. The transport cost is too expensive. Okay, so what happens is if you can sell to China, you become rich. When you become rich, it goes both ways, right? So China will be able to sell their products to you, right? They can sell their EV, they can sell whatever things are they can sell. So there will be a lot more trade link. Can see that? So this is why countries actually, what do you call it? They welcome the BRI. So why the countries welcome the BRI is because these poor countries, developing countries and all these poor in Africa, all those things, they find that when they have this BRI project, it actually benefit them in terms of economic growth, right? The people actually become better. Okay, and the most important thing is they don't meddle. They don't meddle in your political affairs. They don't come in and say, okay, I want to change the regime. I want this leader. I want that leader. I only want these people who are friends to me. Okay, now this is a different thing from what the Americans did, right? So the CIA was really, really bad. So when they come in, they will say, okay, I want this leader, I don't want that. So they create a lot of problems. And at the end of the day, they are not there to help you develop the country. At the end of the day, they just want to come here and take your resources. That's it. Okay, so this is the BRI, and now it's more than, I think, probably just 10 years anniversary. The projects is really crazy. They have built a lot. Of course, there's a lot of projects also fail, right? It's not everything is successful. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes the politics turn around, and sometimes they don't want to work with China or other political groups. Lots and lots of problems also. Okay, but all in all, there are also a lot of you can see the clear benefits between all these countries, how they are benefiting. And this thing will be on for the next, I think, at least another 20 years or 30 years. I don't know how long. Okay, but the benefits after the infrastructure is completed, the benefit will be for, I think, probably another 50 to 100 years. Okay, so this is what China BRI is about. Okay, now, so the people's opinion of China is turning, right? It's not because of no reason. There is a particular reason why more and more countries actually welcome, right, China. Okay, compare the performance of World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and Asian Infrastructure Bank. Who did this? Who? Kenji, is it? Huh? No, no one own this one. World Bank, Asian Development Bank, Asia Infrastructure Bank. No. Maritime Silk Road. Ah, this is the one I'm looking for. So this is what they want to do lah. Original Silk Road was here lah. Okay, so it's one belt, one road. So this is the road, this is the belt. The belt is the sea route. All right. So there's a lot of campaign to try to badmouth or try to sabotage this. Okay, so the US say that no, these are debt trap. Debt trap meaning is China just want to trap you. Okay, you borrow so much money from them, in the end they will come and they say this and they say that and they charge you a very high interest rate. Okay, so basically, is it a debt trap? Right, so a lot of negative campaign that people try to, because they are so afraid that these people will actually move to China, all right, support more China. Okay, so all these things, yeah, debt trap diplomacy, you can read about all these things, country specific. Hey, where's the bank? I thought I saw the bank just now. Asian Infrastructure Bank, Infrastructure Investment Bank. Right, first proposed in 2013, development dedicated. The primary goals, the articles, loans are fully transparent and accessible for an AIIB website, unlike many other forms of Chinese investment through the BRI. Right, the proposed bank authorized 100 billion, 75% which come from ASEAN and Oceania. China will be the single largest stakeholder with 26% voting right. Board of Governors in AIIB, highest decision making. The bank began operation in 16 January 2016, approved the first four loan in June. Okay, so you can see that these banks, AIIB, and also what do we call it? Asian Development Bank, ADB, say they are trying to take over the role of World Bank. Okay, so they find that this World Bank is so bloody stupid. You went to borrow them, you must listen to them, you must use the American way, you must reform your market, blah blah blah. Right, so now we have our own bank. So if you want to have infrastructure, then you can borrow money from this bank, right? And this is the interest rate and everything is transparent in that sense. So it's actually giving people a choice. You don't have to just go there. So last time we have no choice, we have to go to the World Bank, or we have to go to the Western countries to get money from them, so interest rate high lah. Okay, and also all these conditions. Now we still go to the World Bank and all those things for the poor countries, but we are actually going to all the different places, and then we can compare, see which can give me a better deal. Can see it not? So this is how the whole thing is changing lah. All right. So if you compare the performance, I was hoping you all can come up with some numbers or charts and all this to see how this is actually progressing lah. If you have, you let me know lah. Right, but actually I think they are moving very very fast. Okay. So far, any questions? Yes. I know your questions. Yes. Talk so much, Okay, I'll tell you. Some are coming out for exam, some are not. Okay, so what is coming out for exam is number one, WTO. Okay, number two, World Bank. Number three, IMF. Okay, so the BRICS, the dollarization, the, what do you call it, BRI. Now, these are actually more important and more relevant, but it's not in the exam, right? The Australia are not, how to say, they haven't keep up to date yet, right? But in your future, in your work and all those things, right? If you're talking about trade, talking about what, it is important for you to understand what is BRICS, okay? What is de-dollarization, okay? And what is the BRI? So all these things you need to know, right? It's definitely going to be useful, right? Any company, right? The WTO, World Bank, IMF, this one, I think after maybe another 5 years, another 10 years, they will become more and more irrelevant, right? They will become more and more irrelevant. Okay. Any questions? No questions, Okay, so we take a break. 10:15, we come back, right? 10:15, we continue with the session 2 class. All right. They don't have much power. Okay, so for example, let's say WHO, World Health Organization, they can come up with a law and say that, all the members of WHO, they must comply to this thing. You must sign up to this thing. So if Malaysia finds that, we don't agree with this, so we can choose not to sign up, right? Worst come to the worst, we can get out of WHO entirely. Can see that? So international got less power. Okay, so we have multilateral. That means there's more than one country lah. So you call it multinational lah. So the multilateral institutions here, it's WTO, IMF, and what was it? World Bank. Okay, so each of these have their own goals and stuff like that. Okay, now why institutions? Why do we have institutions? right? So generally, institutions are important because without institutions, yesterday we discussed about this, right? Without institutions, countries can, it's difficult for us to trade, it's difficult for us to grow, right? So there's a video in VU Collaborate you can watch, and they talk about why institutions are important. Okay, so for example, let's say you are driving a car and you go to drive a car, there's no traffic rules. Okay, that means there's no such thing that say that you must always drive on the left, no such thing that say that the traffic light red color you cannot go, right? So if you don't have institutions and you cannot enforce this, everybody use their own rules, then we will have a lot of inconvenience, right? We don't know what are the rules, and then we go there with like, what the hell, right? We can't really drive, can say not, and then there will be a lot more accidents, definitely. Can say not. So institutions will basically set the rules, and if everybody play by the rules, we will all benefit. We will all, how to say, become better off. Okay, now, so after Second World War, okay, the US and the West, they developed this thing, the WTO, the, what do you call it, the IMF and World Bank. Okay, so basically they set the rules, and this promote economic cooperation, they promote trade, they promote a lot of things, and they are important. Okay, and they play a very important function. Okay, but then the problem today is, I think especially after 1990s, when we moved to a unipolar world, whereby these institutions, they don't really play their role. What they did was, the Americans used these institutions to exploit other countries, right? So which is why today you have things like BRICS, BRI, and all these new countries coming out. They said, we don't have to do this. Okay. In fact, countries like India, China, and all these things, we still support. I mean, they still support the World Bank, the WTO, the IMF very much. Okay, because they say this is what we call a rule-based world, right? So in this world, rule-based world, everything is based on a rule, which is good, which is important. Because if you don't have a rule, how are we going to trade? Okay, but the problem now is the Americans themselves are breaking the rules. They say, I make the rules, you follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, then I'll whack you, okay? But I don't follow the rules. Right? So these are the problems. Okay. The second thing we need to know is global public goods. Now, what is public goods? We know public goods are goods that are non-rival and non-exclusive, excludable. Okay, non-rival means the consumption by one do not reduce the consumption available to the next person, right? So non-rivalry, you understand? Okay, so for example, let's say radio. You are listening to a radio. You have a radio, you tune into the radio. Now, when you listen to the radio, the next person who wants to listen to the radio are not affected. If they have a radio, they can listen. If 1 million people listening to the radio, the next person who wants to listen, they can also listen to the same station. So long as you get the frequency, there is unlimited. So there is non-rivalry. Understand? Okay. Now, non-excludable means that you cannot exclude the next person from using it. Right? Say if there's a let's say there's a street light. Okay, it on at night. So the motorist, the person who drive the car, they use the street lights. Okay, they can see the road. You cannot exclude to say that, okay, now whoever pay can use the light. If don't pay, I'll switch off the light when you come here. You can't, right? So it's either you on the light or you don't on the light. You cannot be standing there and off and on and off and on the whole night, right? So this is public goods. Now, public goods got a problem. We call it a free rider problem. Now, what is a free rider problem? Now, free rider problem is because it's non-excludable, you find that people don't want to pay for it. They will just wait for someone to pay for it. Once it is available, then everybody can use, and these people are called free rider. They don't have to pay for it. So in the end, free rider problem become a missing market. Nobody want to produce because nobody want to pay, right? So here the government will want to provide the public goods. Okay, not so how they force everyone to pay, they tax. So from the tax money, okay, either income tax or GST or indirect tax, they use the money, they provide the public goods. So they provide things like street roads, street lights, roads, okay, the police, the judiciary, all those things are public goods. Okay, now we talk about global public goods. Okay, now global public goods are public goods, but they are global in nature. Okay, it is what do we call it? All these multilateral institutions, they are providing the global public goods. Okay, so what are the global public goods? So you can see open market in recession. When the economy is in recession, every country want to protect, so they have tariff. So when everybody have tariff, everyone become worse off. So when you have a recession, you should actually open your market and not protect your market. Right? The reason why they want to protect the market is they have tariff is because they want to protect the jobs. They don't want import. They want to protect the jobs. They want people to buy from local industry. Okay, but if you do that, you will hurt the other country, and that the other country is going to retaliate, and then in the end, both of you also become worse off. Right? So open market is a global public goods. Open markets during recession, especially. Number two, capital flow to LDCs, less developed countries, so poor countries. So when capital flows there, you find that, of course, the country is going to benefit because now they got investment, they got jobs, they got so many things. But the countries that send the capital there will also benefit. All right, because if let's say I'm the multinational firm, I invest in the poor countries, I also get more profit. Right? Maybe I can make use of the cheaper labor there. I can make use of the land. I can buy the resources cheaper at that country. International money for settling of international debt. Okay, so this is, we're talking about the US dollar, right? So if you have a system whereby, globally accepted system for paying debts, so how much you owe for facilitating trade, how you pay people, how you get paid, and all those things. So this is international money for settlement. It's a global public good. Last resort lending. All right. So last resort lending is when your economy is in serious trouble. All right. You cannot pay for your imports. Okay. Your exchange rate is dropping, falling like mad. So you need to borrow money. So if the IMF is there, then you can borrow. So these are global public goods. Okay. Now, criticisms of international institutions. Number one, moral hazard. So moral hazard is nations will know that if they get into trouble, they can borrow money from IMF, so they take additional risk. All right, this is not really a good point. I mean, countries don't do that. Because countries know that IMF loan is just stupid. If you can avoid it like a plague, avoid it as much as possible. But generally, this is the meaning. All right, moral hazard. All right, it's just like, if your father is very rich, okay, and you start business, or whatever business you start, you know that if you fail, if you go bankrupt, you get into debt, then your father is going to bail you out. So you just simply start whatever business, right? Because whatever you lose money, all those things, you just have to call your dad, and then your dad will say, okay, gao team, everything's settled for you. All right, at least if you are doing business, okay lah. But that also depends on what type of business lah. But if you are gambling, serious lah. Okay, now, so when you have countries like IMF to be at the back to always bail you out, to give you loan, then countries may take additional risk. So these are called moral hazard. Okay, now institutions are undemocratic. So what do you mean by undemocratic? A lot of these institutions, WTO, World Bank, and IMF, their decisions and discussion, everything is made by the big countries or the rich nation. Okay, the poor countries are the others, all the groups are all those got no voice. You got no say. Right? They come up with something, you just say agreed. That's it. So this is undemocratic. It's another criticism. Okay. Institutions are slow to address growing criticism. So when you criticize them, they are very, very slow. Right. So these are the three what do we call it? Criticism of multilateral institutions. Any questions? No, okay. Now we go into session 2. I don't know what happened in session 2 because we can finish this in 15 minutes. No joke, because session 2 it's basic theory, demand and supply. Demand, you know, right? Supply, you also know, right? So demand and supply lah. Okay. So okay, so this is demand. All right. So demand curve, so how much a consumer, I think this one you know already lah. I don't want to talk already this one. Okay. Anyone who got problems, don't know what is demand? No, determinants of demand, depending on taste, price, related goods, income, expected future prices, all these are demand. Okay. Now, supply. Supply is just the goods that the producers will supply. All right, willing to supply at each position. So you have demand and supply, you put them together, you have price. Okay, so what we want to do now is consumer surplus and producer surplus. Okay, now what is consumer surplus? All right, now consumer surplus actually measures the welfare of the consumer. Say if you go and buy let's say you go and buy lunch, okay, you find that if you buy a lunch, you go to a economy rice, right, or the mixed rice shop, you pick a few dishes, and that rice charge you maybe $12. Okay, now you find that if you were to cook yourself the same thing and go and buy, have to spend petrol, have to buy the stove, have to get the what they say, all the pepper, salt, everything, your lunch will probably need more than $12. Maybe you need about $15, plus all the time and effort. You calculate the cost, probably about $20. Okay, so you find that actually it's cheaper for you to just go out and pack just eat outside, and you just pay $12. Okay, so let's say for a lunch, how much are you willing to pay? Now, if you are willing to pay, okay, if you are willing to pay for a lunch, okay, $20. But what you actually pay, it's $12. So in economics, we find that your consumer surplus is $8. Okay, now, so this is the meaning of consumer surplus. So this is the value that you enjoy, or the value that you enjoy for buying the $12 lunch. Can you get that? Okay, this is the basically the value, because you're only paying 12, but you're willing to pay 20. So this is consumer surplus. All right. So in whatever transaction, whatever things we do, so long as there is consumer surplus, you find that the consumer will be better off. They are more happy. Right? So that is consumer surplus. Any questions? All right. So say what the heck? Hey, my drawing is a bit too slow, Okay, so this is consumer surplus. Now we go to producer surplus. Now, producer surplus is a different thing, Now, producer surplus is, let's say you are a producer. Okay. Now you are willing to produce, you are willing to supply a good. Okay, the 1 unit of goods, so long as you are paid, let's say $20. Okay, so long as the price so this is the minimum that you are going to accept. Right? Let's say you repair bicycle. So to repair this bicycle, so long as you pay me 20 bucks, I will repair for you. But you pay me less than that, I don't get. But the price that you get, it's let's say 30 bucks. So the producer surplus here is 10 bucks. So this producer is very happy working because they are getting paid more than the minimum they need to be paid. If they pay you $20, you will still supply you will still do the job but you don't get much surplus But if you get the payment $30, right, then your producer surplus is $10. So the producer surplus is the difference between the minimum amount that the producers want to produce a good and the actual amount that he received. Okay, so between the minimum and the actual here is between how much you are willing to pay and how much you actually paid as consumer surplus, this producer surplus. Can? Right? All right, so in the diagram, the consumer surplus, it's shown by this area below the demand curve. The producer surplus is shown by this area above the supply curve. Okay? So if we look at the consumer surplus first, let's say this unit, right? Let's say this unit 3. Now, for the third unit, how much you are willing to pay is this price. But you are actually paying only this price. So for this unit, the consumer surplus is here. Right? Then for the next unit, you are only willing to pay less. But you are actually paying here. So you still have consumer surplus, but less. Right? And then for each unit, these are the consumer surplus. So you total up, this is the consumer surplus. You do the same thing for producer surplus. Can get? Any questions? Okay. So it's consumer surplus and producer surplus. So if let's say this is the demand curve, right? You are spending, you are using 40 units or 40,000 units here. The price is at 2,000. So your consumer surplus is area C, right? Can you calculate area C or not? So this is 1,006 times 40 times half triangle. So this area. Now, if let's say the price goes down to 1,000, your consumer surplus now is C, T, and D. The whole area here, consumer surplus. Okay, not? So can you calculate that? Right, so the same thing. Here is 2,006, here is 65. So 65 times 2,006 times half. What is the area of increase in consumer surplus will be T and D. Okay, what is U? I also don't know what is U. So the whole area here is what you actually receive if the price is 1,000. The whole area here, TU, is the price you actually, the revenue you actually receive, or in this case, how much you actually pay. You are paying $2,000 and you are paying for 40,000 units. So this time, this is how much you actually pay. So this is the consumer surplus if it's 2,000. Same thing for producer surplus. Okay, so surplus, you are clear. Okay, so national market without trade, the maximum surplus you can have is when the equilibrium point, right? So the maximum, these are all the consumer surplus, these are all the producer surplus. If you produce at 20, let's say you produce here, I can draw. All right, say if I produce here, oh, I cannot draw. The thing a bit slow. Okay, anyway, so if I produce at this level, I will find that my consumer surplus will be here and the producer surplus is here. So I haven't maximized. So to maximize my surplus, I must consume at the equilibrium point. All right. Okay, what happened if you have a trade? What happened if you have what do we call it? International trade. You know. Okay. Say we have a trade here. All right. Say this is the demand, price, quantity. This is the supply. Okay. So this is the equilibrium, price and quantity before trade. Now, if the world price is, so this is the, what do we call it? Consumer surplus, and this is the producer surplus. Okay, CS and PS. Now, if let's say the world price, it's, the world price is here, supply from the world. So this country is going to use this quantity and they will import this, correct? So this will be the domestic production, right? So what is the new consumer surplus? The consumer surplus, this is what you actually pay. This is what you are willing to pay. So consumer surplus will be here. Can see that? Now, before that, your consumer surplus, it's only here. Before you import, your consumer surplus is only here. Now your consumer surplus is the whole green thing. So your consumer is actually better off by this area and this area. Can see that? So consumer surplus increase if we can import, right? Because when we import, we pay lower price, okay, and we have using higher quantity. If we don't import, we don't trade, we are paying this price and we are using only this quantity, right? So for countries that import, the consumer is better off. All right. Now, what about producer? Okay. Now, producer surplus before the trade was here, right? Before import export. Now, after import export, what is the producer surplus? Producer surplus is only left here, right? This is the domestic production. So this is the producer surplus. That's all. Okay. So producer surplus is reduced by this trapezium. All right. So the local producers is worse off with the import. Can get? So the net trade, is it a net gain or a net loss? So here is net gain. Why? Because consumer surplus increased by this amount, producer surplus lost by this amount. So the net gain will be what amount? The net gain will be here. Can see that? That means who will be the winner? Consumer will be winner. Who is the loser? Producers. Domestic producers are losers. Overall for the country, are they more winner than losers? Yes, they are losers, they are winners, but they are more winners than losers. So this is what happened when the country import. Okay, so when the country import, consumer will gain, producer will lose, domestic producer will lose. Okay. Demand supply. Now, before you trade, let's say this is consumer surplus, this is producer surplus. This is before trade. Okay. Now the world price, it's here. World price. That means that the world, they actually it's higher than your domestic price. So what happened is at this price, domestic producer will produce this quantity, Q2. It's no longer Q1, it's Q2. They're going to increase their output. And the amount of export will be here. So this will be the export, right? So domestic consumption will fall from Q1 to Q3. All right, that means from 0 to Q1, the domestic producer produce, they sell to the local. Q3 to Q2, they export. They export to other markets. Right? So you look at producer first. Now, first producer, originally producer surplus is here. Now producer surplus is the whole thing, right? So increase in producer surplus is this area. Right? This is the area the producer surplus increase. Now, then you look at the consumer surplus. Before that, consumer surplus was here. Now, consumer surplus is left here. So the loss is consumer surplus is this. This area, loss of consumer surplus. All right. So who is better off? Producer, domestic producer is better off for exporting country. But domestic producer is worse off. Domestic consumer is worse off because consumer surplus is lesser now. Right? Consumer surplus left only the small triangle on top. Okay. So is that a net gain or a net loss? So overall, consumer lose this blue color. Producer gain what? Producer gain all this red color here. So we have a net gain, right? We still have a net gain. So overall, it is better off for the whole country, although the winners are producer, domestic producer, and the losers are consumers. Okay, now we look at all together. Say we have country A and country B. Okay, and they sell let's say they sell coconut lah. Okay, country A, the coconut is very expensive. Coconut A, it's here. Country A, price and quantity. It is demand, it is supply. Now, country B, the price is the coconut is very cheap here. Country B. That's the good thing about doing this. All right, so country B, maybe the land is better for coconut and stuff like that lah. So what happened? Country B price is lower, country A price is more expensive. So it makes sense for the country to trade with one another. That means country A should actually buy from country B. Okay, so how much they buy from country B? So for country B, the supply of coconut to the international market, it's here. Right? So where does this curve come from? It's actually from here, right? Because above this price, domestic only one here, but the rest you can export. This price you can export. So basically the supply curve. Okay, it's the supply curve is like this. Okay, now the demand curve, right? Anything lower than this price, anything higher than this, anything higher than this for country A, there is no there's enough domestic supply, so there's no demand. But anything lower, there will be a demand, right? So this is a demand for coconut, right? So the world price is set at this price. So this is the quantity. Let's say this quantity is 10 units. Okay, 0 to 10 units. So at this price, this country will export 10 units here. This country will import 10 units. Okay? So the gain in trade for country that export will be this triangle. The gain in trade for a country that export will be this triangle. Okay? So at the end of the day, is everybody better off? Exporting country is better off. Importing country is also better off. But not everybody is better off. Because in the exporting country, the consumers are worse off. Country A. In the exporting country, the producer is, what they call it, the consumer is worse off. All right. So here we have winners and losers, right? So the winners here will be producers in this country, but consumer would be losers. Right? For here, consumer will be better off, yes, but producer will be worse off. Okay, but overall, the whole country, we have a net gain. Overall, the whole country, we also have a net gain. So for both importing and exporting country, both also will become overall better off. There's a net gain of trade. So this is consumer surplus. All right. So in your exam, what you need to do, or what they ask you, is they will ask you to identify where is the price for net gain. How much does the consumer lose? How much does the producer gain? Right? So you must be at least know how to calculate the areas here. They give you all the numbers. So from the numbers you calculate. You know what I mean? So you must know what is the number, how to calculate the area for a rectangle, how to calculate the area for a triangle, all these things. Can? All right, so this is the example here they give. Okay, motorcycle, this is the country. The country, the US motorcycle market, is $2,000. Okay, but the rest of the world, they can produce motorcycle at $700. All right, so these countries, after 700, they can export. So this supply of export. This is the demand for import. So the equilibrium is priced at 1,000. So at $1,000 US, they only produce 15. So they import how many? 40. Is it? 50. They import 50. Okay, for the rest of the world, they export 50. Okay, but the price go up. Right? So here, consumer better off. Here, producer better off. Okay, so this is how we put all these three together. All right, so next week test, you have to calculate. Right, this is 1,000, this is 15, this is how much. So area, you must identify the area and then calculate what is consumer surplus, where is producer surplus. All right, this is the net gain of consumer. So will be B plus D equals to this. This will be the net gain of producer, or net gain of the whole country. Producer surplus increases this producer surplus. This is N, this is N. This B plus D is B plus D. Right? So if you are not clear, you can read the textbook, or you can come and ask me, right? You can ask in the chat, okay, either tomorrow or maybe on Thursday, up to you. Right? But make sure you know, but basically it's like that only, just consumer surplus, producer surplus, and what is the net gain and net loss. So all you got to understand, or all the point they try to make is that when you have trade, they will be winners and they will be losers. Some will gain, some will lose, right? But overall, the whole country, whether you import or export, overall there's a net gain. Net gain for exporter country and net gain for importer country. right? And that's all only lah. Any questions? No questions? Jonathan, any questions? No, huh? So no questions. I'll see you on Thursday. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.